We already know that, but the estimate was something like over 30-something% now of bots and how they've stolen millions out of. Can you, it's Cal Matters, it just came out yesterday. We know it, it's just getting worse.
I thought that was getting better. That's what Paloma made it sound like.
We're
on top.
doing the best thing, but it's getting worse.
All right, everyone, it is that time. It is 3 p.m. For those of you who are joining us on Zoom, it looks like because Laura couldn't hear me, that audio is coming through clearly on that end, but please feel free to chime in at any time if the audio quality starts to degrade here. It's good to have you here, Russell, Dee, and Laura. Everybody else in the room, they are joining us remotely. Also wanted to give you a heads up with regard to our updates from the VPs. Paloma will not be able to be here because there is an accessibility conference that is running through 4 o'clock. Our Vice President of Academic Affairs, Dr. Villagomez, is also going to be away. She has sent me her updates from out of the VPAA's office. She is currently away at a Chief Instructional Officers Conference, so she will not be joining us today for her updates, but she might be able to chime in with regard to the academic calendar, which we are going to be reviewing. She will be coming back as well on the 23rd, depending on what kind of feedback we get from that as well. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that one. We also may have to be a little bit nimble also because Dr. Keller Maganow, who is supposed to be here to be able to discuss midterm reporting and other annual reporting on student success measures for the ACCJC, is going to be able to join us shortly after the 4 o'clock hour because she is also at the accessibility conference that we are hosting here as well, on top of taking care of a lot of work for accreditation too. So we're going to have to be a little bit nimble here. If I have to stop to say we have to take some things out of order, I will make sure to check in with everybody too. So in calling the room to order, everybody, I would appreciate it if you would take a look at the agenda. Otherwise, again, bearing in mind we may have to be a little bit nimble today, but can we get a motion to approve the agenda as it appears?
So moved.
Thank you. That's Barbara, and we also have Ruth as well. Thank you very much. All in favor? Any opposed? And any abstentions? All right, folks. At this time, I would like to invite public comments. So we have Cornelia, and we are also joined by Jamie, and I also believe that Kathy O'Connor as well. So how about in that order? Cornelia, please.
Okay. Very short invitation for our Faculty Association annual spring party, May 3rd. Regular time, what is the regular time, Kathy? I think 4 to 7. 4 to 7. We have 8 full-time faculty who are retiring this year. So please come bring your whole department, your whole divisions. We will have a lot of fun. Porch Critter is playing again.
Is that James? Is that that's Matt's band?
Matt and
That's great.
Band. Food will be amazing as always. And yeah, the only ones who are missing are you.
Just to try to just to follow up a question that I received about that. Stan Burston is going to be one of the honorees. He
Yes.
asked me if I could speak on his behalf, but he was also worried that because of his bad back, that he's wondering where the location will be. Will that be at your place?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can find a nice chair for him to be comfortable in.
We will let him park right in front.
Yeah.
He can pull right in the driveway.
I will drive him to the park.
Oh, well then you can pull right in the driveway.
Okay.
It'll be a drive-through.
On May 3rd, Saturday.
Just wanted to put that there. Thank you, Cornelia.
Yay. And again, the date on that is May 3rd. May 3rd at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock.
At Kathy's.
Okay. And speaking of which, Kathy, please.
Okay, this is very quick. I wish everybody were here. I would like you all to nominate or invite other people to nominate the faculty lecturer for next year. And remember, anyone nominate faculty, staff, administrators, students, anybody that's at the college. The QR code is right there, so it's easy. Share with the students, okay? It's easy to do this. It's really important. And if you want more than one of these, I'll give you more. They're supposed to be yellow, but you know, okay. They're not yellow. So anyway, please nominate by April 28th. Anybody else? I'm gonna put them up here, maybe in case anybody comes too late. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have for public comments, we are joined by Jamie Campbell.
Hi, everybody, I'm Jamie Campbell, I teach in the math department. I want to speak about item 8.05 on the agenda, which deals with noise coming from music on the grass out here on the west side of the campus. So I want everyone to start by imagining that they're a student here. You're in the IDC and you're in a room that maybe doesn't even have air conditioning, so you want to have the windows open. You're trying to learn something like multivariable calculus. Whether you like math or don't like math, are really good at math or are not good at math, is incredibly hard to learn. So you're trying to learn, kind of focus on your instructor. You're trying to also get your notes down and trying to understand enough so you can ask questions. Or maybe you're taking a test upon which your dreams of transferring to actually be engineered depend. But you're having trouble doing this because for some insane reason, people have decided to put a literal PA system 100 feet outside of the windows of the classroom. This is what math students have been subjected to for as long as I have been at this institution. The real crazy thing is that the math department complains about this all the time. And every time we do, we are thought of as the problem department, as being unreasonable, when we are just asking for conditions under which we can maximize the success of our students. How many times have you been in a meeting where people have said something like, well, we have to do what is best for our students, or let's talk about student success in terms of, or let's get the student perspective, things like this. Actually, better to ask how many times have you not been in a meeting where someone said that. We cannot pretend to care about student success at this campus if we allow PA systems unnecessarily blasting music right outside of us. So I encourage you to take the lead in banning this practice, because we go to our dean and our dean goes to dean's council and you just get shut down. They say, no, we're gonna play the music. There's no way we're gonna stop it. The best we can get is an announcement of when the music is going to play. So I know what days to cancel my class on, because my students aren't gonna learn anything anyway, or I have to move my exam because they're not gonna be able to succeed. So, thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate you talking about this matter. Have a great Wednesday.
And please agendize that issue, that's really awful.
It is agendized.
Okay.
The challenge, however, is we
Okay,
have had lots of other things that have been impinging on the Senate's time, and so we've constantly pushed it back, but I will make sure that this stays on the agenda as well. Thank you, everyone, and please do feel free to weigh in on those comments as we come to that discussion item 8.05. If I may draw your attention to the minute, before I do that, is there anyone online who would like to offer a public comment? All right, looks like we're good here, although it looks like we are also joined by some of our counselors here. I'm sure that they're going to want to weigh in on some of the APs, at least if there are any questions with regard to grade changes in pass, no pass policies as well. So if I may draw your attention to 4.01 with regard to the minutes that have been provided as always by Katie Laris.
Move to approve.
We are moved to approve. All right, thank you. Can we get a second on approving the minutes? Thank
Sorry,
you.
who were you
So it was Kim, and then it was Christy who decided to second. Thank you very much. All right, on to our president's report, item 5.01. So everyone, I'm sure that it's no surprise to you here. Dr. Elizabeth Imhoff has been elected Academic Senate President starting year 2026, 2027. She will be joining us the next academic year to serve as Academic Senate President-elect. I have to say that I have worked with her over the last 7 years in both her capacity as dean and also as faculty on a number of Title V and Title III federal grants, also state grants as well. She has been a fierce proponent for faculty professional development, for culturally responsive training on campus as well. The last of the Affective Learning Institute conferences will be held at the end of this year at Avila Beach, just one more time to be able to round out that work. And she will be joining us as Academic Senate President. And I'm sure that you're all aware that her knowledge about the administration and their operations will also help to inform how we engage in participatory governance from this moment forward. I am happy to have her in this role as well. Also, an update on the distance ed coordinator position. Dr. Matt Mooney has been approved as our next distance ed coordinator. He will also be serving a dual purpose as our poker coordinator as well. To be able to help move more faculty towards badging their courses on the CVC OEI. It may not at this point be the great enrollment rush that all community colleges were hoping for, but as a retention measure, we have more than a few students who need to pick up a class, sometimes in the winter intersession, and it's the CVC OEI that helps us with that. So trying to get our courses certified and also poker badged as well may actually help those efforts too. An update on our emeritus status nominations that were put forward on the March 12th meeting. I have forwarded to Erica Endra-Jonas. The superintendent president will be moving that, has moved that to HR so that Dan LeGuin-Schmidt, our VP of HR, will forward that as a request to have that approved at the next BOT meeting Thursday next week. And what I decided to move from an agenda item previously to a briefer update that we have here. Just wanted to let you know, since we do have at least one Title V federal grant that is in motion, that is also supplementing our distance ed coordinator's position and the poker work as well. Some notifications that I received from the Department of Education. The Department of Education is working on a skeleton crew at the moment. I received the following correspondence from my previous program officer. This is from Injiri Clark, who has worked at the Department of Education for the last decade. She had to forward this to me by way of one of her colleagues who is currently employed at the Department of Education to be able to say that she has been let go. There is, however, some good news that there is an injunction in place that says by law, federal funding that is already out in motion and already in the hands of institutions has to go forward, at least for the time being. So for whatever funding that we have from federal external funding, that will still stay in motion. That also means that I'm not off the hook to close off one of our grants. I still have to turn that in by Monday, but at least that work will continue. Erica Endra-Jonas and I also had a conversation the other day as well to ask, because of the fact that we are in an anti-DEI climate, is it the case that I have to rework what that report actually has to say to scrub it of any concerns regarding DEI? And she said, no. She said, you write this according to what the objectives required, and that we have to trust the law as it was at the time. So we have to follow through on this work. Which means when we talk about our Black African-American students, when we talk about our Hispanic students, when it comes to first-generation students that this grant was supposed to serve, we have to write it up as if we follow through on that work. So no changes that she recommends. That, and also a follow-up from the most recent workshop on building the next student equity plan. Some guidance from the state that says, look to our assembly bills, look at Ed Code. We have a responsibility to not only put together a student equity plan, but we also have a responsibility, particularly if we have an HSI designation or for any colleges that are historically Black serving, and to be able to provide a multicultural learning environment as well. So the argument is, until we are told otherwise, and until California law changes, we have an obligation to follow through on our DEI. That includes what we do in the classroom. Don't change what we do. And on that note, that workshop was intended to try to help us plan out for the building of the next student equity plan. We have a committee that will serve as steering for the drafting of that equity plan all the way through its final submission on November 30. That is composed of Vice President of Student Affairs, Paloma Arnold, myself, Melissa Menendez, Juan Quesada, Roxanne Byrne, and Nicole Aldendick. We put out a survey to the entire campus to get cross-constituent participation in this. Initially, we had a cohort of 11 that signed up, But now that is up to 18. We are also asking members of the seat committee to also participate in the drafting as well. And we also have student volunteers who are going to participate in at least 2 of the 6 groups. And that's because Melissa Menendez had reached out to ASG to be able to get volunteers to participate in the drafting. So we are trying to make sure that this is as inclusive a process as possible. If Tara were here, I'm sure that she would remind you that there is a call for CAC chair open through April 16. I will be sending out an email as a reminder that we are 1 week away from that deadline. We need it to all be submitted through April 16 so that Kayleen can agendize this for the April 21 CAC meeting. Then it will return to us as a consent item to be able to approve the next CAC chair. Also wanted to report from the last board meeting that both Alan Price and Rob Brown were selected as Administrator of the Year. And I also wanted to add that Alan Price had the most gracious of addresses to the board as well. And
He was amazing.
he was classy. Rob, no less deserving of that award too. Please, when you see them on campus, give them our thanks as well. Also wanted to let you know that as far as where we are in terms of our internal review for accreditation, a midterm report is due. I am heading up at least one of the teams that is going to draw together the midterm report. And lastly, call for volunteers or some suggestions, folks. I could use your assistance on this one. Dean Christopher Johnson is asking for some assistance for at least one faculty appointment for the disciplinary hearing committee. I believe Dave Saunders is already serving on that one, but they are looking for another candidate. The default will be for me to do it, but if there's anyone else who would like to pick this up, bearing in mind we need representation on that committee, please feel free to that. Roosevelt? Great. Thank you. All right, folks, those are my updates for today. Let's return to the agenda, please. With regards to item 5.02, again, our Vice President of Academic Affairs is not joining us for today, but a number of updates. She may actually be able to zoom in time to be able to address any questions that you might have about the academic calendar. She wanted me to highlight that the summer 2025 schedules priority registration will begins this week. The fall 2025 schedule will go live by the end of the day tomorrow. She wants to thank everyone who has put work into this. My thanks also to the academic calendar work group that also includes Cornelia, and for a sub work group of that work group working on one of our APs, wanted to thank Elizabeth Chisholm and Vanessa Algin for being able to weigh in on that work for modifying one of our APs regarding academic calendar construction. She also wanted to draw attention, I think that we can all agree on this one, students are at heightened stress. We are seeing sporadic reports, unfortunately, about students' visa status being revoked at universities. And so drawing attention to student mental health concerns, refer students to the Dream Resource Center and undocumented, maintain privacy in student records, being mindful of data collection and sharing policies to prevent unnecessary disclosure of sensitive information. All of you are practiced at observing FERPA. Encourage access to mental health and legal support and reinforce our commitment to inclusivity as well. Also from the ACCJC as well, she has provided you a link to some of the latest that we have from the ACCJC on AI. They've been hosting a range of conferences for which I highly encourage your attendance. For any other concerns about her updates, please either refer directly to Dr. Villagomez or you can refer to her president's report. Paloma Arnold also will not be available for today because she is at the accessibility conference that we are hosting, and that will be through 4 p.m. All right, everyone. So let's move on to the liaisons report, please. Give it a second. And here we go. All right, our committee reports. So our liaisons are available here, and also Dee Hawkins is joining us online via Zoom. Does anybody from our Senate subcommittees have anything to report? Since on the list.
Okay, the AP
Thank you.
committee has taken a break from meeting the last couple months, but we'll be resuming meeting this spring. Tomorrow is the next AP meeting, so y'all are welcome to join for open comment at the beginning. Let's pay for the meeting. It is meeting on Zoom. Melissa Menendez is still currently chairing the committee, but more updates on that soon. For FPSS, we had Gabe speak at, join us at 2 Senate meetings ago to talk about net tutor usage, along with Dean Taylor Schott. Those discussions for net tutor are still continuing in the committee and seem to be the biggest project that the committee is working on. Gabe, the Patel FPSS chair, will be working with Dean Beth Taylor Shaw to develop a budget moving forward for how much we'll be requesting from SBCC to pay for tutor usage that are outside of our internal usage. And with that, once that gets established, the committee will be setting recommendations and parameters for how we move forward with the net tutor. As a reminder, we get 250 hours free from the state, but now post-COVID, we've been going over that. And so we either need to come up with policies to limit the amount of net tutor usage we're using to stay under that 250 or stay with under the 250 plus whatever we budget. Moving forward here in a time where budgets are unpredictable. So nothing's been set yet, but you'll be getting updates as we look for recommendation for setting that policy.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Let me move down the list. Elizabeth, do you have anything to report out of CPC, please?
Yeah, so there's been 2 CPC meetings and 2 CAC meetings since. There's a new controller, Larry Ma. The internal auditor search didn't pan out. Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, there's gonna be 9 people on that. There was only supposed to be 7, but they got 9 applicants, so they were like, okay, whatever. They are gonna have the, they're not calling them graduations, they're calling them celebrations for graduate, for Black graduations and HSI graduations, just to avoid the times, you know. And those dates for those are in the EC newsletter, so you can advertise those, share those with people. President's office is doing a reorg that's saving some money. There's some various shenanigans with like, there's not gonna be a senior, what are they called, executive assistant anymore, or they're just doing some shuffling. They're saving some money, $166,000.
Wow.
Good.
Which is the area, sorry.
The president's office
President.
is doing a reorg. So they're getting rid of the phone operators. They're gonna make a phone like tree type situation now. Yeah, and there's some executive assistant shifting going on, things like that. So that's how they're saving that money. And then finally, the 23-24 PNR and ITC items were funded with $250,000 that JV and people like found. So that's good. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff. IT director application window closed on April 1st. So, but I don't think they found some, they didn't, this is the application window closed.
Yes.
That's all we
They're on the
know.
next round and now they're on
Yes,
this.
so that's all we know. Let's see. There was something else I wanted to say. Oh, yeah. The spring break for SBUSD, they changed it. So we had to change ours for 26, spring 26. They moved it back a week, so now we had to move ours back a week. So that came up at CPC.
What does back mean? Forget, earlier or later?
Later.
Later.
So
Okay.
it'll be like.
First
April.
Yeah.
Okay.
So historically, Santa Barbara Unified has had their spring break on the 4th week of the month. And this is that next year, it's not going to.
Right.
So that's why it's.
Right.
For Easter, yeah.
Okay, so that had to happen, and then also Pipeline, it will be completely gone. You cannot log in to Pipeline starting June 2nd. You have to use My SBCC. So that'll be accessing all the faculty resources, all the employee resources, all that stuff. You can't go to Pipeline anymore. So make sure you do that.
After June
June 2nd.
Has this is
a little off topic, but like that My SBCC takes forever to hook up to Canvas. So like if you're gonna show your Canvas shell in class, I don't know, it does for me. It takes
Mine-
forever. So I always go through pipeline
Okay.
to get to it.
It hasn't happened to me.
Doesn't. It might be the computer in your classroom.
Maybe.
Ask Lauren to look at that.
There's a way.
And then-
that FRC can help you. I'm sorry, there's a way that FRC can help you get
Can it?
Faster.
so that
Okay.
it's faster. Contact them.
Thanks.
Okay, last two things about CBC. Jordan said that DegreeWorks implementation is gonna take another month and then Starfish 3 to 6 months to be fully implemented. No, she says no. Okay, cool. Go with her. She probably knows more, because she's a counselor. We all know that. So what is it then?
Great question.
Okay, so what's longer? Oh, that sucks. Okay, and then. CCN, the common course numbering. The phase 2 is happening, but they split it up into 2 parts now. So part A is gonna be implemented in fall 26. Part B is gonna be implemented not till fall 27. They're also working on the templates for phase 3. So if you get a survey from Tara or Laura,
Castro?
please do it, because more than one person can do it. It doesn't have to be only one person in the survey. You can do more than one, so do that, please. And then also, you'll probably see in the schedule, but they have been working on making it more clear for students. Especially important because, like, for example, Math 117 is now a completely different name, Stacked. So they've been working on where Math 117 was. It says Math 117 is now Stacked. Those students know where to go. And then English is now ENGL,
It's awful.
so it's a different place. So anyway, I think they did a pretty good job. I looked at it. and I
Can
thought
we
it was
make that uniform though? Because some departments say something different than others. Like, I think COM does a really good job of saying COM 131 will now be COM C 1000. And I think we should just make it the same across the board. Not all departments say that.
Yeah, and the
The schedule
But
of
the-
classes.
yeah,
The
the top.
communications thing is the easiest one because it all says communication. So it's easy for people to find the COM 131. But we went back and forth
English
with
is
that.
horrible.
We changed it again Monday. And hopefully we made it better and more uniform. But it can't be exactly like the communications one.
So we can't just say, Math 117 will now be Stacked C
It's
1000.
basically
English
gonna
110 will now be.
say that, and we wanted to have a link, and I don't think they said we could have a link.
Link is a great idea.
I know, but I
It
don't,
Why can't we have a
can't
link?
for some
they
reason.
can't do a link.
So glad we're doing this to make everything easier.
Yeah, our students are really gonna love it.
C 1000.
Well, we're doing our best. I mean, us as a school.
Oh, I know.
Everybody's doing their
It's
best.
sorry.
I know.
Anyway, so just letting you know, so what's going on. And then lastly, in CAC, they were talking about how the ADTs and the local degrees and certificates don't have like a uniform way that they list their requirements. Because the ADTs have like a way because of the state, the way the state says it must be listed.
Transfer model curriculum template?
No, like, it'll say the core requirements and like
Oh,
choose from list and list. Whereas like the local degrees will just say,
Yes,
She wants
yes,
list
yes,
A, list B,
Right.
list C, and some of ours say one out of these, and
right, so the suggested was,
Align
let's
it.
make it all the same, so they all look the same. And everyone kind of at CAC agreed with this, right? CAC, that's Kathy. Right. So, yeah, and then the other thing was, I guess some of the certificates of achievement say require C or better in each course. Whereas others say require C or better or pass course. And the idea was that if a certificate only has classes that require C or better or pass, also say that. Just makes sense.
language, because of
Pass is the C.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would be it also. So that also makes sense. So that's the new thing. Okay.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Okay.
And any reports out of ITC?
As always, Lori is incredibly productive. So they've gone over a lot of the program review submissions for, both software and hardware. Talked about the turned in, plagiarism to cost, whether tenured or not. They've been, of course, engaged in the accessibility center. There's gonna be, in fact, this one-day training, which, a number of people are at right now, right? And of course, Lori's continuing to send out a lot of information about, just educating people on how AI is being handled, in campus, across the state and the country. The other things that I was looking at were, the safety meeting, there's not that much to report. They filled some potholes, they fixed some parking lots at Wake Center and dealt with smoke detectors, the asthma bids going forward, and then in terms of P&R, I think the main thing was that we have already begun to look at the program review requests for both new and replacement equipment. One thing that was nice was we had a representative from SEL with us yesterday, who was able to give us more information about the SEL requests.
And thank you, Katie. I also wanted to follow up regarding the safety meeting, regarding our most recent basic campus emergency training. Chris Renberger and Eric Fricky and I are in conversations. We'd like to have more faculty participation at the next training. So they are trying to work around planning for fall 2025, so that we can hopefully have more faculty actually attend the basic training itself. And so you will be receiving some updates from me moving forward as that planning goes forward. In hopes that we can get more faculty representation here, please. And Barbara, please.
Quick question about ITC, about the recommendation for Trinidad and the plagiarism portion. I know for a fact from speaking with several social science chairs that they agree with our recommendation. Is social science represented on ITC?
I was trying to figure out who our representative
Because
is.
that information needs to get there.
Yeah, so we use it all the time.
We have, every division, I think, is represented on ITC.
Yes, it's.
But the information
so.
needs to get there. And Tara said so, and I know Andrea said so, but I don't know. I don't know how that works.
I should know who our rep is and I do not. But I'll figure it out and talk to them, because yeah, we use it all the time, and with the kind of writing that we do, it's really critical. Otherwise, I think it's gonna force us to do more in-class like exams, and that's not necessarily a good way to assess students.
And I can report back to Lori as well, because Lori would normally be listening to the Senate, and she's at the accessibility meeting right now, so I definitely will let her know and have her talk to your reps.
All right, thank you, everyone. Do we have any final questions for our liaisons to our Senate committees? If not, may I draw your attention to one of our informational items regarding some APs that are on the table from PCAP. Go ahead and bring up our tracking document. This is a listing of APs. Because of the spring break, there wasn't much traction in trying to get some feedback on this. That's one of the reasons why I also had reached out to Christine Sabrina and also Jen Hamilton. It's also one of the reasons why We have members of academic counseling who are available on Zoom for this informational item, just in case there are some questions for clarification. So we have AP 3510 that's open for feedback on workplace violence. We have AP 4232, pass, no pass, no guidelines, and also AP 4231 on grade changes. I have some summary comments with regard to these APs. For AP 3510, the summary of proposed changes includes legal updates requiring the district to implement a workplace violence plan. That includes also filing retention plans for training and incidents. I'll allow for more questions with regard to the following: 4232, pass, no pass, and 4231, grade changes. The changes to 4232 extends the deadline for students electing pass, no pass as the basis for evaluation into the 5th week. Clarifies that no pass is considered in academic notice and required academic pause procedures. And also some courses are designated as letter grade only as approved by CAC and are not eligible for pass, no pass. With regard to grade changes, the changes include allowing for exceptions to grade change requests for extenuating circumstances. Jennifer and Sabrina and Christy, does that capture some of the changes that are requested here? We also have Angelica Contreras as well. I'm glad that you were able to get her through the email threads. Is there anything further that you wanted to elaborate?
Just wanted to elaborate that these are both as a result to the pandemic. And so these were actually executive orders that were initiated during the pandemic, and they have now been extended after the pandemic. We are a bit behind on updating these policies. The pass, no pass was changed from, used to be, you guys, as you guys know, 30% of the course, now is the last day of instruction. And for the grade change, it's the EW, the excused withdrawal, so allowing students to obtain an excused withdrawal. The latest iteration of the grade symbol change, EW, is that the college is essentially going to do everything they can to provide mitigation for the student prior to them electing an excused withdrawal. So that means that everyone as a campus collective should really understand the excused withdrawal and provide tutoring or options of tutoring support. Let's do everything we can to help you be successful. Last option is the excused withdrawal for students. They do still have to meet one of the excused withdrawal circumstances: death, natural disaster, illness, and all of those things.
How is it affected on GPA?
So it does not count towards a GPA or attempt.
So for the pass, no pass, we're codifying now what we've been doing. since
Exactly.
COVID. Okay, a couple of questions about and I think this third point is what I've been trying to advise students about. Some courses are designated as letter grade only. So when a student says, I'm gonna do this, and I always say, hey, talk to your counselor first, because English 110 is only accepted as a letter grade for certain universities, but I don't remember which ones. Is that, how are you going to address that here?
Communication. So really having a communication campaign with Office of Student Life, creating a new webpage for students, sending emails over, communicating. In addition, when the students select the option of the pass, no pass, the hope is, now we're in the 21st century. Many campuses, what they have is a student can toggle back and forth between the pass no pass until the very last day of instruction. And we're hoping that there's a pop-up of some sort. So we've asked IT, is this possible? They've said, yes, but we know this is going to take time. So hoping that there's something that the student initiates and understands that we must meet with an academic counselor. Academic counseling is also committed to supporting students. They've already sent emails to students letting them know, come and meet with us. They have plenty of time. Let us know. We do know students do things on their own. The pass no pass is very clear. Once you've initiated your pass no pass and the deadline has passed, there's no going back.
So is there any way, or is it too complicated, especially for, thinking for the English C1000? Have in there, because some of them will say, oh, I know I want to do this, and I say, wait, and so I go, I don't have time, or is there something you could put there that would say if you're transferring to these schools, or is that too much to put?
Specific, it would say, please work with your, just as it does now. But at the
Except they're
form
not doing
that currently stands is please work with your academic counselor. that this effect is, that this is permanent essentially.
But in terms of the transfer
Yeah.
problems, and they don't understand that, even when I try to explain it to them, and I even had, and I forget which counselor it was, I had an email. Might have been one of you last semester, back and forth with a student, the counselor was trying to help, and the student just didn't understand that, and we can only do so much, but is there a way to put that information somewhere? But those actual
We can do that on the website.
universities, or even get it to us, because I always forget what they are. And this is the biggest concern, is they hear that and they go, oh, cool, I'll just put in for that, because that way I won't have to worry about it, and I'm recommending that they go, and most of them don't go.
I think Wendy Peters online has some feedback for
Yeah,
that.
great.
She was on the work group with us.
And students can, if they decide to select a pass, no pass, and then later on realize, oh, I need to take it for a letter grade, they can always go back and change it.
At what,
Can,
As long as-
after the
Up
semester,
until the deadline.
up until the last day.
up until the last day, yeah,
Yeah, that's when they're all deciding to do it, is the
Yeah.
last day.
yeah.
They don't.
Let's let
Every-
Wendy jump in. Oh, okay.
Thank you. Wendy, please.
Oh, thanks, Josh. Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
Two things. What is listed on the spreadsheet there, the third thing that says, oh, where'd it go? Some courses are designated as letter grade only. That's different from what you were just talking about. That is courses that are in CAC and can only be taken for a letter grade. So for example, there are maybe 4 or 5 honors courses that cannot be taken for pass, no pass. So students, they think, oh, I'm going to turn in this form, but the truth is that course will not be approved because CAC created the course, you created the course as letter grade only. So we've just added that to the AP so that students would know and that we would all know. Regarding your question about classes that need to be taken for a letter grade, that is different based on every institution and in every major.
Majors are things.
And majors.
For me, Barbara, I think I was the one who sent you the list. So for example, international students have to take English 110 and English 111 for a letter grade for 4 or 5 of the 9 UC campuses. But that could change. That could change next year. So we want to look with the student. We want to be sitting with them, talking to them about it. So when we have the ability for students to toggle back and forth, if they choose pass, no pass, and then we meet with them within the semester and we say, oh, you're applying to UC Santa Cruz, and that, I don't even know them off the top of my head, that one requires a letter grade, you need to switch that back. And it's a huge deal, Barbara. I absolutely see your concern. It's a very big deal, but students still do it all the time where they take a class for pass, no pass when they shouldn't have. So having a pop-up, we're going to have 2 pop-ups. One will be the same disclaimers that's on the form now. You need to talk to your academic counselor and you need to talk to the transfer institution because the rules are different for every school and every major. And they're not the same for every student. So some students will say, my friend said that she's taking it for pass, no pass.
Could, and I would need to look at the language, but could it, obviously it can't include all the details, but could it say something like, because some courses or because some institutions and some majors require a letter grade, be sure you contact a counselor.
Yes.
Could it say, does it already say that specifically? That would be helpful if it doesn't, because that's what they need to know, then just check with the counselor.
I was gonna say,
Yes. Yes.
40%.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Just trying to be mindful of time, everyone. We do have some guests that we are time stamped to be able to carry out their presentation. Remember also you have access to this form. It is editable for all senators to please append your comments here so I can forward those also to BPAP, Rosabeth, and then wanted to return that to Angelica as well and to our counselors. Jen Hamilton again is in the as well. Rosabeth, please.
The pop-up, I think what the students are not understanding is they may not get into a college that they want to transfer into. So I think the language should be a little bit stronger, however you feel. Because students, if they don't understand that this could impact your ability to be accepted into the college you're applying, something like that, then maybe they'll understand, because that has happened to our students.
think we haven't vetted the wording on the pop-up yet. When that happens, we will all be bickering back and forth about an A and a the and making sure that we're totally covering ourselves as best as we can communicate it to students. Yeah.
Great. And now, Jennifer, any last details that you want to share for this information?
No, I think that's
We're
it.
very excited about this. Academic counseling and our whole division has vetted this and has gone over this, and we're very, very excited to allow this to be back in the students, you know, hands, if you will, and but we've been fully supported, been working on this for a couple of years now, and very, very excited to move this forward.
So just to confirm, both of these policies are, you guys approve of the current language?
Yeah, so just to add to that, so as Jen mentioned that we've been working on this for 2 years. So I've been in a work group with Sergio Perez, Wendy Peters, Eli Villanueva, and Jen Hamilton. We met several times a few years ago. We've just been anxiously waiting for this to get approved. We reviewed, we looked at what other colleges are doing, at least 10 other colleges were doing. So some of the language is required. So the last name instruction, that is Title V required, it's removing the onus from the faculty to the student. That is something that a lot of colleges, even just here in the Central Coast, close to us, are already implemented.
And this has gone through our division and had all the strike throughs and everything they've done.
So I'm hearing from the Senate, there's concern about making sure students realize the transfer implications. Would you guys be comfortable suggesting a sentence about that, or is that not something that?
We would like to give as much information to them as possible. It's our IT that we need to partner with on that.
But where were you saying in the
So
policy?
keeping in mind, students don't read the
Yeah,
policy.
Mhm.
Students don't read the policy. The best thing that we can do is communicate to them. So working with the Office of Student Life, working with our counselors, creating a webpage, creating a lot of communication to students. You guys as the instructors are in front of the students, so you guys communicating to that is going to be the best plan of action.
The pop-up you're talking about, you haven't composed that way.
We have
IT has confirmed that it is possible.
Okay.
We are just
We're
still,
waiting for this.
yes, we've been waiting for it to get a
Can we see that at some point when it comes, or
Yes.
when after you guys put together a draft? That
And
way.
we're asking that the student even has to initial or acknowledge, check mark it so that we know that they
Nice.
read that and they need to.
And it may not be that exactly, that would create
That's our
more
hope,
of a
that's
form,
our,
but it makes it more of a pop-up toggle type of thing.
it would be intentional.
Yes.
Senators, remember, please, you have access to this spreadsheet to be able to provide any further feedback that you may have. Please try to submit that as soon as possible so that we can move this along to BPAP. We have a little bit longer time to be able to review the following APs with feedback due on April 23. We are revisiting AP 7211 that has been returned to the chapter leads, and in turn, I'm also requesting any feedback. This is on our faculty service areas. We had previously looked at that in the fall. With regard to conflict of interest, AP 7210, that is also something that we are visiting in BPAP 2. There was some concern that was expressed by Daniel Spitzer with regard to disclosure of outside employment. So he's currently working with VP of HR, Dan Le Guin Schmidt, to be able to clarify that between themselves. And also, once again, thanks to Elizabeth Chisholm and also Vanessa Aldean for serving on the sub-work group of the academic calendar work group to be able to work on AP 4010. That's just there to be able to clarify the process by which we actually construct the academic calendar. Please have a look at those APs and also submit your feedback here so that we can return to this once more when it comes to our meeting on the 23rd. And Chris, please.
For AP 4010,
Yes.
is it possible to include their surveying the students to find out what they would like?
Certainly one of the things that I wanted when it comes to the academic calendar construction as well. Now, that was actually something that was in discussion. There was a way, there is a question of, however, about rolling that out in a fashion that doesn't also introduce survey fatigue for students. But there was that desire to be able to have that. And if that is not already in the suggested language, that's a piece of feedback that I would like as well.
Okay.
Also to be able to say, students should have a hand also in being able to survey each other. There are some needs that they might be able to anticipate in asking students about what they need scheduling wise and also in terms of the calendar as well. So please,
Great.
I like that. All right, folks, the time now is 3:49. Again, we're sort of in the window for having Michelle Paddock here. She is here for item 8.01. I did want to draw to your attention one consent item. This was on clerical error on my part where one faculty member was left off of the list. That was a sort of late arrival that just missed my my notice. This is for Manu Eskandari. Manu has not been included yet, but I have cleared that with HR and have confirmed his eligibility. Also, just to clarify from the last time we went over emeritus status nominations, there was a question about Ellen O'Connor. She actually was conferred emeritus status, so it is only Manu Eskandari who needs to be approved by consent.
At least she said she was.
Said she
Okay,
was.
move to approve.
Okay.
Whether it's real
Thank
or
you.
not.
So we can move Manu forward. Remind me, protocol, do we need to have a roll call for this?
Consent items, I think.
It's a consent item, so
Just ask.
we will move him forward, and I've already clarified with.
Just call if there's any objections or abstentions.
That said, about Ellen O'Connor, I decided to open up 2 other tabs for any status that is yet unknown. Plus, we are also going to move on having a formal page to be able to clarify who actually had the merit status. And that also includes our part-timers as well. All right, thank you, everyone.
So just call.
That's also, folks, thank you for reminding me. So we have a motion to approve by consent when moving forward, and we have a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, congratulations to Manu. So
And goodbye.
we have a guest here today. Wanted to draw to your attention, item 8.01, that is our Blue Economy Initiative. We have invited Michelle Paddock to join us.
But I'm a trio. If you have my slide,
Did you send it?
Okay, I can talk well. We made some visuals to help you, but I'm Michelle Paddock, professor in biology and the chair of environmental studies. And Tim Selko is here representing California fishermen, commercial fishermen, Santa Barbara, and Emma Horanek, who is the faculty member and director of the Marine Diving Technology Program. And so we wanted to give you an update on this initiative that is this Blue Economy Initiative, and it's the Ocean Collective. We brought it to you all last January, a year ago, just with the initial phase after talking with community and doing some outreach. So just as a reminder there, so I just made some pretty pictures to kind of anchor us in. This initiative is really deeply underlying and a core part of our mission here at Santa Barbara City College to provide workforce development for our community. And so this is bringing in this idea of the blue economy because the history of Santa Barbara is so deeply rooted in this ocean that we get graced by here. And there's a lot of different components of what blue economy is, but the bottom line is it's any kind of career relating to the oceans, even if it's adjacent, ocean adjacent, that affects the oceans, that has a core of sustainability in it, so not just deeply extractive work. And so feel free to ask any questions if you want, but this collective has core members. The Santa Barbara City College as sort of what I see as sort of that pinch point between the community and on both sides with really the goal is to even reach down into the K-12 system and make sure that we're meeting the needs of our emerging local citizens. The Economic Development Collaborative is here and the Santa Barbara, City of Santa Barbara is involved and Commercial Fishermen's Association. You want to introduce yourself a little bit?
I'm the executive director of CFSB, our fishing association in town. It's a nonprofit. I've been doing that for almost 10 years. I'm also a marine scientist. I did my PhD at UCSD and still affiliated there. And I also have a business in town selling seafood. So I'm also a player in blue economy. And this is, the Ocean Collective is sort of a passion that we've been working on for over a decade to develop and bring these partners on board, get the city council fully embracing it and funding it. We were so excited that we found sort of a home at City College to really develop this. It makes total sense. You're right at the harbor. we have a need to really grow our workforce for the next generation. For jobs on the ocean and to provide basic training. It really ties into sustainability goals, habitat restoration, ties into marine diving tech program, which Emma will speak about a little bit. So it's really a concept and it's a consortium, it's a partnership. There's still a lot of room to develop exactly how it plays out. And that's kind of the stage we're at right now.
Yeah, and just also, for those of you that remember the presentation a year and a half ago, I guess it was already, just that these kind of hubs are occurring around the world, so this isn't a unique. Important for that. So the bottom line is that we sought development funding, so, and shockingly, of all the grants that got canceled, this one came through. So, believe it or not, we have a grant. This is Uplift Central Coast, Catalyst funding, and, this is the goal of our group. Mostly it's about educational programs at the core for students, community members, and that's marine related careers. And so him is a really excellent example of somebody that's doing a marine, many marine related careers, combining entrepreneurship, business, seafood processing, really drawing more people into seeing that this is a viable option. A lot of people who grew up in Santa Barbara really want to stay and work here and deeply love this part of our ecosystem and don't realize how many different pathways there are to that. And really the strength of the partnerships that we're creating amongst all of the different amongst all of our partners within this. Between, I've already mentioned the government and NGOs, but also the high schools and businesses in town, and you'll see a really exciting piece. And then also having some facilities on campus to support that. So this grant, we requested 250, they came back to us and we and told us to pare it down, so we got 200,000. This is how the grant is distributed. So and it's through the foundation. I had a little sticker there that said the foundation, but we went through the foundation, so Rachel is involved with this. So there's indirect costs, a little bit for just marketing and supplies, and there's facilities planning, which includes architects, and I'm gonna come back to that in a second, but the two core pieces of that are the community and industry engagement, which is deeply important for connecting here. So Celine is our employer liaison, or I don't know her official. Employer engagement, so she's working with us on this, stakeholder coordination and collaboration. And then the curriculum programming development, because as you know, all of you who are faculty, that it's really hard to create new things while we're teaching overloaded classes in our understaffed departments. So that includes some offset for faculty to take time to actually do this development. And just a note with the facilities that there is no district funding involved. This is totally grant funded. This is a win for the college, because if this comes to be, it is an entity that is paying the lease for this land, and City College gets to use that for lab and teaching space and interactive pieces. And this is totally grant funded. If we don't get funding to pursue it, it will die. So just to assure you that it's not taking money away from our resources. You want to add anything in there?
Yeah, I mean, just that, like, CFSB recognizes the constraints that SBCC operates on, very tight budgets, the way of doing things. And we really want this to be a win-win. You're not looking to kind of take, we really do see that SBCC needs to really benefit in multiple ways from this. And it's a very collaborative process to define that with a lot of planning work to make sure that it unfolds that way.
Is there a program that you've modeled?
We are modeling a lot of different ones, so we're pulling from a lot of different ideas. So I can tell you in a minute about some of our exciting work at the BCAP conference. But Emma, do you want to speak anything to really quickly facilities needs for MDT and the regrouping of it?
Yeah, so obviously, so MDT is marine diving technology, and our students are it's a very niche program, right? There's only 6 schools in the United States that teach this program. That being said, students have to be open water scuba certified. They have to take an intense occupational dive physical in order to apply to the program. They have to pass a swim test, right? So they can do all of the diving portion of the program. And what I'm really excited about having, this facility right next to us is to potentially create a dry marine tech pathway in which students can come and they don't need to be open water scuba certified. They don't have to do the dive portion, but they can still do the seamanship class and the welding class and the diesel mechanic, more, blue economy jobs that don't require them to have these other certifications prior to entering the program. And because we are the only dive school that offers the dive certification as part of an associate's degree program, the only one in the country. It would be really awesome to be able to offer a marine tech certificate, but also incorporate that into the associate's degree that's already present. So I think it's a really great opportunity to bring more students into the marine tech program through this collaboration.
And there's a really good example of that called the MATE program up in Central California of training people to do these marine related careers. So that's part of it. And then one of the pieces that we're integrating already, so we're taking the initiative to really pull in as much as we can right now. We've got facilitated amazing funding from Wendy Schmidt. And so this is a collaborative project that Santa Barbara City College is a part of through our students. So our students are getting to be interns on the project. Do you want to quickly say anything about this project?
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of like an example program of the Ocean Collective where we've got, win-win for the dive, commercial fishing community, the sea urchin divers are looking to restore kelp forests so that it brings back the fisheries and productivity of the ocean. We're also going to be taking the purple urchin that are removed to bring back the kelp and making various product lines out of them so that we kind of create market demand for the purple urchin and stimulate restoration of reefs that way. And so City College students are involved in every step, and we've actually already have a 50% time City College student in the environmental horticulture program working on this for over a year, and he's the one grinding the urchin and getting it tested. And so, we've opened it up through the projects and sustainability class to have other students look at how they might want to make a project out of this. In the future, we could bring in, students to the docks to help measure the urchin as they come in and help us kind of evaluate the data and how we're going to move forward on this project. So we really tried to design it in a way that's very student accessible, so we get these dual, goals out of it.
And not just student accessible, but making sure that people who are not normally represented in these careers are getting to see and hands-on experience what these opportunities are like. So we're pretty excited about that, and we're getting really great feedback from our students who have already been involved. Over spring break, we went to the BCAP conference, which is the Blue Economy Climate Action Pathways Summit that was down at UCLA. So it's all of the Southern California colleges. It was, I have to say I was feeling a little grumpy about going to a conference during my spring break, but oh my God, it was the most exciting and motivating group. It was really beautiful to see the commitment. And we did a lot of awesome learning and networking, and Emma got a donation out of it.
Yeah, so it was really awesome. I met Alan Eustace was there, who's he was the lead CEO engineer of Google back when it first started. So he's has a self-made billionaire. He started his own autonomous drone vehicle for underwater. And so I was talking to him, and then the gentleman who owns Blue Robotics and founded Blue Robotics, which is the company that makes this ROV you see here, was also there. I was talking to him about how I wanted to bring back the ROV program that we had at the MDT kind of before everybody retired and left and all their knowledge left with them. And this is also a great opportunity for students who don't want to dive but also love looking under the water. And we were just talking, and Alan Eustace goes, well, you know what, I've met both of you today, I'll help you both out and I'll buy an ROV from you and give it to her.
Wow.
Next morning I woke up, there was an email, hey, the money's been submitted to the foundation.
Wow.
So yeah, it was really generous, just a reminder of how there's people out there who are really invested in education and really care. And so we now as a school, and I really want to emphasize this, like, yes, this was donated to the MDT program, but it can be utilized in the engineering department, in, you know, marine biology for sure. And I'm sure there's other departments on campus too. I know yesterday we were talking about how sharing is hard, but I would really, I really want this to be a community, you know, donation that different departments can utilize for different projects, the film department as well, you know, doing different collaborations within the school. So yeah, really excited.
It's a really awesome anchor point to really show you all the different ways that something simple can lead to, and these kind of multiple pathways that we can create out of something like this. So we're excited, and just, I know we have very limited time, so I'll just kind of end to leave the floor, but we have an exciting opportunity on Monday night, for those of you, if you haven't heard about it already. Imani Black, who is from Maryland, she created an organization called Minorities in Aquaculture. So we're creating conversations. We've had many Blue Economy conversations, one hosted here at City College this past September that was really well attended, another hosted by CFSB in January at the Community Environmental Council that was amazingly well attended. So Kim has really helped orchestrate bringing all of this together for an aquaculture panel, and we got the Maritime Museum to help support us. And so I'm scheduled during my environmental studies class, so my whole class is gonna walk down there and be part of this and get to really interact with local industry leaders and hear about the stuff that we're learning in class. So it's open to the public, but the Maritime Museum is small, so you're first come, first served. Do you want to say anything else about it, or? Yeah, so, but you're all invited, and most importantly, you know, this truly is a project that I can't think of an example of any department or any sector of the school that doesn't touch the oceans, and so I really want involvement, and I invite whoever to be part of it. We shared it with the department chair meeting, but if anybody wants to be involved, I am welcoming you, so. Yeah, so if there's any questions about what we're up to.
We have time for maybe 2 questions, please. Does anybody have any follow-ups? Catherine?
What curriculum are you thinking of bringing forward for our students in the future?
Well, we have many ideas, so it's the question of which we go with first.
Right.
So one of the big pieces of conversation that we're talking about is having some mirrored curriculum pathways, so that there's certificate programs for people who might just want one class or a little bit of training,
Right.
but then they might get inspired to pursue careers. So we don't want to make this only for people who are transferring. So, you know, one example of that is like welding. That could be a touch point for moving forward. You could do welding anywhere in the country, but you know, could touch into that. Like Emma was saying, there's also this potential for kind of a dry marine tech pathway. Other ones, I mean, a lot of the curriculum we already exist, and so it's forming it into programs and degrees. So maybe the regenerative agriculture, which might pull in some of this aquaculture. I don't think we can have the facilities on this campus to ever have an aquaculture program the way that Santa Monica College has, but we can start getting that regenerative agriculture piece, which this Urchin project is tied into. So there's a lot of ideas. We're just starting, this funding just came in, so we've just had 2 curriculum meetings about it.
Well, and you know, there's CTE money out there. You know, career tech money.
Like a strong workforce and.
Yes, and so before Alan Price leaves, you should talk to him.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of our meetings, for sure, yeah. We're just hoping, you know.
Once you get a certificate together,
Yeah.
you can apply for some strong workforce funding.
Yes, awesome, thanks. Yeah, we're trying to figure out the best ones to start with, because there are so many great ideas out there. So, and part of that is gonna come from the employer engagement side of what does our industry want and need, and what are they asking for us? And it could not be that, you know, we shared that economy jobs report, but that's for jobs right now. We're forecasting into the future. You know, we don't yet have windmills, they might be here. We don't yet have massive agriculture off our coast, that this coast is being slated for it. So we're trying to get ahead of the curve so that our students come out ready for that job. Okay.
Any other questions?
How nice it is to get some good news. That was, you know, It really is.
Yeah, it really is.
It is fantastic.
And so really.
Yeah.
Incredible opportunity for students. My thanks to all of you, and also I believe Jens is also on Zoom. We wanted to thank him as well, and also our thanks to him.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for listening.
All right, everyone. Want to draw your attention to our next item here, if I can just exit out of the presentation. This is going in order. I know I got a chance to be able to talk to our colleagues from institutional research. Maria is here, and she is zooming in from a conference, so that's why I wanted to make sure to stay on time as well. So if I can draw your attention, please, to item 8.02. This is on the academic calendar that has been proposed for academic year 2026, 2027. Also wanted to preface this by also saying, folks, that this does not have to be the only discussion around this. In fact, Maria and I tried to work this out so that we would revisit this again on April 23. Also wanted to provide you with at least some preface for this meeting by taking a look at some of the data that came out of a campus-wide survey on the all faculty list, to be able to gather inputs on the starting date for spring 2027. This came up as a concern in the academic calendar work group because of the fact that we would have at least 2 Mondays that would be knocked out. That is an acknowledgement of the concerns of those of us who host the labs on Mondays, that we would lose two of these holidays. It's also one of the reasons why the academic calendar has typically begun the week after Martin Luther King Day, to be able to minimize the impact to labs as well. Although there is some discussion also out there that says there may be pedagogical things that people can introduce into their labs, but I don't want to say that for everybody with regards to what they teach, especially at the beginning of the semester. So this is some of the preliminary data that has been presented for you here. This is also something that Kimberly Taylor and Carmen Rivero, who is also on the Zoom call with us, that they wanted us to make sure to revisit this as well. It may say 49.5% of individuals want that Martin Luther King Day, that week after Martin Luther King Day holiday to be able to start the semester. With a smaller proportion who wanted to start on the Tuesday of January 19, another 16.5% who wanted to start on Monday, January 11, and number who also said 11.3% who said I have no preference. But they wanted to point out that's half of the people who don't just want January 25 start date. And so is it worth revisiting this? The other thing that I also wanted to point out, if there was a way to be able to encourage Wednesday, Friday classes, is that something that we could explore with a lot of the open-ended narrative comments saying, no, it doesn't work well for students. And also we have many of our college day events going on. We have our meetings largely set aside for Fridays. That would be very difficult to be able to overcome. And then also another thing that came up on our radar as well. When it comes to Ventura College, this was a conversation that I had with Erica and Jonas on our one-on-one meeting, taking a look at where other community colleges are in the region. It is Ventura County Community College, the Ventura County Community College District that is actually starting earlier in the winter break. Is that also a challenge for our enrollments where we are not being competitive because we are not offering classes in lockstep with what other colleges in the region are offering?
They're on an 18-week.
Yeah, they do a longer semester.
Like, there's that part of it too, where our students can barely make it to 18 weeks. I have a friend who teaches there and
But I heard they're gonna go to compress those,
I don't know.
I think if that happens, we're in trouble. So I think to get ahead of, if they go to the compressed calendar, then I think we would lose enrollment.
I do too.
So I
But
want
they
to get
may
ahead of
change
that.
your calendar then too.
It's true.
Do we know when Ventura starts? Is it 2 weeks or 1 week earlier than the 25th?
I believe it's 2 weeks earlier.
If they have to do 18 weeks.
I can speak to that because I teach there.
That's Laura Boyd. Okay.
Yes.
I can speak to it because I teach there. They start 2 weeks before us. They are 18 weeks, but I will say that the vast majority of their schedule is less than that. So they're doing kind of what we're doing. We're like, if you look at the entire business division, they don't offer any 18-week classes anymore. They offer 12, they offer 8, they offer 10. So they're getting creative because they're so fed up with an 18-week semester. But I will also say that it's pretty far out. There's a big fight happening right now between the union and the district with going to the compressed schedule. And so I don't, it's going to take a while to resolve, I think, because it's not just logistics, there's actually like legal implications that were not mentioned and that they're coming to light. So it's going to take a while for them to get to their compressed schedule. I don't see it happening probably for at least another 2 years or longer. But yes, they start the 11th and they get out the same day we do. But the vast majority of their calendar or their schedule is not 18 weeks any longer, even though it is an 18-week semester, just so you guys are aware.
It was for Laura. When is the online only classes? Is that starting in the fall?
Yeah, I mean, it's being encouraged. If you go look at the schedule's been published, if you go look at the schedule, there are many, especially CTE programs, like their diesel automotive program, a lot of CTE programs are still having face-to-face, but there's a huge pushback. There are no business classes. Math is they're kind of having a battle in the math program because the math program wants mostly fully face-to-face. And so there's a struggle happening, but it's being enforced beginning in fall. So that's the desire. There's, negotiations. There is definitely some trading happening about, well, if I give up this, can I get that? But it is a much stronger online schedule than they've ever had before, even stronger than during the pandemic. So that's just generically what the pulse is right now. But yeah, that's what's happening at Ventura.
I just like to, if people with the Monday labs would be willing to have either one class hybrid or to have the Monday of finals week or a Friday at week 15, if they would be flexible that way, I think I would like to hear that. I do think many people are concerned about the late start, but I don't know if that's not possible. It really changes those classes.
Stephanie and then Elizabeth.
I did reach out to the science division, like everybody in science division with respect to that question after the original survey that Josh sent out. And I said, okay, many of us in science division are teaching labs. Based on that, what do y'all think if we looked at the calendar with a special consideration that currently with the pushback start date, commencement and the end of Fridays coincides with the 3-day Memorial Day weekend. And that was a concern that was brought up at steering. So in order to shift the spring schedule to avoid commencement on a 3-day weekend, would anybody be willing to do that? The pros would be there'd be more availability for out-of-town family, and the cost of rentals would be cheaper because it would be a holiday weekend. And then pretty much people are still responding to me in email as we speak even, but the consensus is so far with the early bird responses is that they could do this if as a campus, like this is like a really big push to do this. However, they want to know what data we're looking at. They said, how do you know this is a hardship? And they brought up, wouldn't this be something that's advantageous because the calendar's set a year ahead of time, so families can plan to come visit Santa Barbara on a holiday weekend, so they don't have to miss work. And then what they want to know is how many people aren't able to come because of cost of accommodations. And so that was what they were asking, but by and large, they prefer to keep the lab and not reduce 6% of our contact hours to an online modality because it's a face-to-face lab. However, we could figure out solutions. Like nobody said, absolutely no, there is no solution if I cannot do this. However, they're saying that we would be reducing 6% of our meeting times, or like 7% of our meeting time to accommodate this. What's the data for backing this up, and is that gonna outweigh the student success for our regular semester classroom? And then kind of brings up a comparison of what success rates or what the lab essence would look like comparing a fall semester schedule to a spring semester schedule. And I totally agree with all that stuff, and I'm one of the faculty members that I do teach a Monday lab, and it's all possible, but really, if we're gonna make that change, I want, what's the data to back that up? And that was, I'll have more data from more science division faculty by the next Senate meeting, but I've heard back from about 12 so far, which is a good number, yeah.
Elizabeth, please.
Yeah, I also want to bring up like having an epically long winter break. I think, I mean, it's nice for us to like recharge or whatever, but it's also bad in terms of student like retention.
How do
So
we know that?
I don't know, like teaching
Look at-
Calc 1 and then Calc 2, like losing info from that long of a time of a break. Like getting back into like school mode. And
That was
then-
actually one of the comments that was provided.
Oh,
There were actually
okay.
3 that were matched together that actually said the momentum of the academic year is kind of lost.
Right.
It's such a long break.
And then the other thing too is like, sorry if I'm speaking out of turn for counselors or whatever, but I feel like the vibe is we like 2 6-week summer.
Yes.
Yes. If you move forward the spring, because the concern is there's not enough time between spring and summer if you start the spring semester later, right? So if you move the spring semester sooner, you also have more potential to go back to the 2 6-week, because then you can have the time. So there's all this ripple effect of time between that would be created by moving it, so.
I'd say that's a bigger student success issue and report than the Memorial Day weekend.
Everyone, 2 things. One, when it came to the survey that was put out, that was actually in careful consultation with the academic calendar work group. I wanted to thank Maria Villagomez for actually taking the time to say, we need to survey faculty. So that's also what got the survey going as well, in order to get input on this one, and why it is that the draft turned out the way that it did. I also want to be mindful, Maria is also joining us from a conference. And I just wanted her to have a chance to be able to chime in. Maria, I know that you're at a conference and I know that you may be jumping in between sessions. I was wondering if you were listening, and if there were any things that you wanted to introduce into the conversation.
Yes, I'm listening and I'm taking notes, and I don't have any comments right now. I'm simply, the agenda item is here for Senate discussion and feedback. And so that's what I intend to take from today. And then I know that this will be coming back at the next Senate meeting for hopefully a blessing and approval. But I am looking and listening carefully for any suggested edits to this draft as we speak. So thank you, Josh.
Thank you so much, Maria. We have Christy and then we have Rosabeth, please.
I have a couple questions. One, do we know how many Monday labs occur? Have that data?
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, no, I didn't, for the whole campus, I have no idea.
Can we get that data?
I don't see why not.
Okay, I think that would be helpful to have this discussion, to be looking at how many Monday labs.
Monday
Because
only,
that-
well, it's not just labs, it'd be Monday only classes.
That's true.
Monday
Yes.
only classes.
Although that question did come up on whether or not, well, could we just simply move them to a Tuesday, Thursday schedule? But but Jens also weighed in and said that is very prohibitive of the lab space that we actually have available. We just don't have capacity.
What Santa Monica does is they have their finals week from Tuesday to Monday. And they extend one day into the next week instead of the entire week into the next week.
That was also a comment.
Yeah,
that
I've
was
heard about that.
offered. Can we actually move one of the Mondays into finals?
Yeah, they go Tuesday to Monday.
See, that's creative thinking.
That's what I was gonna say. At Hancock College, the finals start on Thursday, so your Monday, Wednesday classes are not affected, so it goes Thursday to the following Wednesday. Why do we have to do just 1 week, Monday through Friday? Why don't we mix it up so that our Monday classes are not affected?
Rosabeth, did you have any other follow? That was a follow-up to someone else's.
No, that's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna bring up. It's just, we could split the week and start our finals half 1 week and half the other week.
Thank you.
Okay, this, I'm not sure how to word this or how to present this, but I just want to go back to a conversation that we've had at various occasions about building a student center calendar and providing more degree or course options for students. With this, as Elizabeth put it, so like emphatically, this freakishly long, what was it? Epically long, okay, break. That is actually the perfect time to do a short course, right? Not for every discipline, but a lot of disciplines could do a 4-week or 5-week intercession class, especially an asynchronous modality course. I feel like would work in that model. And we just seem to have tabled that conversation about course offerings and what it means to build a sustainable class schedule for TLUs and stuff like that. And room usage and all that. If there's no rooms being used, right? I know oftentimes that break, IT goes into classrooms and stuff, but it would probably be a short listing, but it'd be a way for us to generate revenue, to serve students, alleviate some of the unit load during the intensive time of the summer. And so I think that if we're gonna continue to talk about the wanting to push the calendar earlier for other student success metrics, right? And coming at a disservice for Monday only classes, the pros would be maybe we would create a whole new opportunity to offer and serve a population of students that we couldn't serve before, winter only session students. And a lot of students from other 4-year schools are coming back home. And there is this big push, we want to serve our local students. Well, our students that graduate from our local high school may have transferred or gone to another 4-year institute, but they come home to us to visit their family, to visit a friend over winter. And so we really would be rallying a demographic that is either our current SBCC students or former SBCC community members. I don't know, I think that's just a really missed opportunity, and I think I've mentioned before, my department does do, oftentimes we do a winter intercession field course, and it's widely successful and allows students to progress and stay engaged so they don't have this gap in critical thinking by the time they return in the spring. Plus, it's a wonderful way for them to just focus on one course load, and it's highly effective for our students in our program.
So, but then you have to push it back to make it 4 weeks, right?
No, it would just be what we do now, but it would start like the day after New Year's.
Especially since we don't offer 2 summer sessions, we need to do one or the other. Offer 2 summer sessions or offer a winter intercession.
And then we have to make.
We're missing out on an opportunity with so many students, and they go to other institutions because they provide those things.
I was gonna say, when the discussion first came up about 2 summer sessions, all of counselors were saying we would rather have a winter intercession, because the winter intercession can catch students who have applied and don't know that they're short on units. And then those units can count towards their admission process. So we have students that take winter intercession classes at other campuses all the time.
Right,
Yeah.
but so then though, again, wouldn't you have to make the winter session longer? But then that means that you would catch the Memorial Day holiday in the spring semester, thus making another Monday holiday.
Yeah, 'cause it's only 3 weeks now between right after January 1st and January 25th. We have 3 weeks now. Yeah, so you'd have to, we had this discussion years ago about the intercession, and we surveyed our students, and we just didn't feel like we were gonna have the critical mass of students to justify a really robust intercession. And if it's only 4 weeks, they're not gonna do English and math probably in 4 weeks. So it really limited what we could offer.
Everyone, just remember, we are also going to be returning to this on the 23rd. One of the things that I would propose, I can get a doc started. I'm going to try to synthesize what comments were offered here by reviewing the minutes as well, so that we can compile what comments that we have. so that I can also issue that to Maria Villagomez. We're trying to be mindful of the fact that we have our guests here from IR as well. And also that this is going to be a longer presentation than the one that was presented when Taylor had things. If we can, Elizabeth.
Can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
This is all fantastic and I love it. But however, I'm pretty sure that we were supposed to be talking about these calendars and we can't change these guys. Calendars, I mean, sorry. We can't change these calendars. This is all for like future calendars, correct? All this combo?
Yeah, we have to approve this change for spring at our next meeting.
Okay.
We don't have a choice.
I'm just confirming, like these
Yeah.
calendars are like, this is it. We're
stuck-
talking about
we're
like.
stuck for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do we have any options? This is the only.
That's what I'm saying.
Correct.
So if
We
if
can't-
we don't approve it, what happens? We have no alternative.
Go, Christie, go.
Well, I'm just.
It has to be.
Right, valid.
Yeah.
Not
something that.
What?
It has to be approved, the board will just approve it anyway.
So we have, I mean. we
These
have-
are all discussions for the next series of calendars.
They didn't ask us nothing.
Right, somebody, because.
And that was, it was designed that way.
Yeah, to have just.
Weren't we lucky to even be included in the?
That's
what I remember.
Listen to us now, so we can do this for.
We'll confer with Maria on this.
Yes.
Yeah, but.
We should start this now, so this doesn't happen again.
Everyone,
Where's Elizabeth and Mom?
look at the agenda for today. So if I may please draw your attention to the follow-up presentation that Dr. Maganao is going to be offering today. This is with regard to setting institutional goals. This is for our reporting to ACCs. So
Share screen, that's why I opted to share, is that all right?
So thank you for having us back, sending you the request to share. As you know, when I came at your last meeting before, I don't know. The purpose was to sort of reinvigorate your 10+1 right number 7, which is your right, responsibility really, for having input on the ACCJC institution set standards, and those get reported on our annual report. And I promised then that I would be coming back with data before we actually submit our report. Am I showing? It says that
I stopped sharing on my screen. Oh, here it is.
She's got to move it over today. Got it. So let me, so what we have today, let me try to find the right order here. Is, all right, you should, yeah, there we go. This is just a reminder of what, the reason we're here. So your rights, number 7, the faculty roles and involvement in accreditation process, including the self-study and annual reports. So before we submit the annual report, I just want to give you some very broad information about that. That report is due Friday. And then you can't read this, but it was also to just talk about why do we do this? And it's pointing to some accreditation standards. So the purpose of what we do with these data is that we are required to have meaningful, ambitious goals, to review those goals, to hold ourselves accountable to the outcomes. And so that's the broad purpose of why you have this in your 10+1 rights. And so what we're going to do is kind of 2 goals. Melanie's here with me today. She's going to talk a little bit about how we have been reporting over the years these institution set standards, which if you don't know what that term is, it's an ACCJC standard terminology. It's basically like the metrics or the goals we set for ourselves, right? The big reason that we're here is because it's not just, we want to stand up here and say, check, we checked off the box that we told you about this stuff and you had the opportunity for input, but to really reinvigorate and re-engage you in this process. So one of the, we don't, for many years, Melanie can't quite remember how many years passed, there hasn't been a process in place for you all to be involved in setting, how are we going to decide what our institution set standard should be, our metrics or our goals should be. But there's a codified process that we use. So Melanie's going to talk a little bit about what that process is. And we want your input on how would you like to have that engagement and why that engagement is important. So really, really briefly, I'm going to share with you, I don't actually think it's valuable at this point to go through all of the metrics. But I do want to show you, it's an online form. It's kind of ugly for you to see this version. What I put here is a summary of, these are the metrics that we measure and report on our annual report. Course completion, numbers of certificates, or what we said in our goal, degrees, licensure pass rates, and job placement rates. So for all of those, there's kind of this is how the ACCJC handles it. Is you basically you say, what is your institution set standard or your floor? What is your aspirational goal? And then you report on what's actual. And that's the same for all of the metrics, all of the institution set standards. So, and then you have a 3-year report that you're giving. So I'm here as a very broad brushstroke to say that based on the data we will be reporting on Friday, that in the 23-24 period that we're reporting on, we have met at least our floor for all of the goals. There are, in the category of our licensure pass rates and our job placement rates, there are some programs that have dipped below the floor. In all of those other metrics that we're talking about, and I'll go back to those, this summary, we're only reporting in the aggregate course completion certificates, degrees. In licensure pass rates and job placement rates, we're reporting by programs. So there are an isolated few that have fallen below our floor goal or their set floor goal. That's a point at which there's remediation that needs to happen, but that's not in our case. It's not an institution-wide problem. There are just a couple of programs that need to get to work on. Why did that happen this year? At the same time, the one other thing I want to let you know about is in this year's annual report, there is a new set of questions that the ACCJC is trying to learn from us and from the field. How do you account for your successes is really what they want. They're looking for what are some best practices that they can uplift. And I will tell you that there are a number of programs where we're going to be highlighting some real big successes. Won't be surprised by some of the programs that I'm going to talk to you about. Accounting had a very significant jump in job placement rates, really successful. Our nursing program has like 100% pass rates, 100% job placement rates. And so we'll be talking about those successes. That's what we're sending. Now, that being said, what is more important is really about how do we decide what are going to be our goals? And when are we going to be discussing these things? Sorry, I cannot get that dumb thing to go away. And how do you all want to be engaged in that? So from what we understand, and I am looking for, I was about to say, maybe those of you who have been around for a long time can confirm this. Institutional Effectiveness Committee, some long time ago, used to be involved in discussing the institutions that standards. We did. And we think that whatever the next iteration of that committee is going to be, it's more likely to be named more something like institutional effectiveness and student success. Its charge will be developed. And it, to us, feels like it may be a good place because it is college-wide, constituent input, and it is an opportunity for all of us to work together to focus on how well are we doing, what are we doing well with students, what can we learn from each other, what do we need to coordinate with each other to improve our successes. So Kim.
My question was just, I want clarification because it's been a long time since I was on that committee. My understanding is the categories are provided by ACJCC, so
Yes.
we're just picking the percentages.
That's right.
And I think people don't know that. I think that's a really big distinction.
So this is
just to explain.
actually, thank you for that, and I'm gonna actually turn it, this is a good segue to Melanie, because she's gonna talk about a report that we do. Once we've sent the annual report, Melanie does this report that gets posted on our website that includes not just the ACCJC's metrics, core success rate, certificates, degrees.
So those
licensure.
initial ones you showed us, those are the ones that are required. Yes, I want people
Those
to
are
be sure they do
defined
that.
by ACCJC, and they want us to say, what's your floor? What's your aspiration? What did you actually do? And so we also have for ourselves, for our campus, we have a series of metrics that include those, but expand on those. And those are the ones that we, as an office, those are our standard key metrics for student success. If you saw the Board of Trustees presentation we did at the last board meeting, those were the metrics that we talked about. And those are the metrics that Melanie puts on what we call the dashboard. That is reported, in this case, only in the aggregate. That's what ACCJC expects. And then I'm going to turn it over to Melanie to talk about how the current, it's an algorithm for how we're currently deciding what our floor goal, what our stretch goal are going to be. And we can continue to do that. Nonetheless, I really think we need to have a place for real, genuine input from you all. And so that's our longer term goal. Melanie, I'll try the bus if you want, or if you want to go.
I'm going to scroll down a little bit.
Okay.
Before we move forward, Christie, please.
Is this posted somewhere? Do we have access to
Yes, this one is not posted yet, but these do get posted on our website annually.
I think, Josh, could you link both the Blue Economy and the documents being shared here to the agenda? That's what we usually would do. Is that okay? Are
And
you?
it was my intention that you would have these ahead of time, but I gotta tell you, I'm gonna confess that our office right now has been wildly.
It's not ahead of time, but like now, we
Yeah.
can just link it. It's, we do that. That's customary. So I just,
I can take care of that.
That-
It's on this screen.
that would be great.
I do.
So as Keller said, some of the institutional set standards that we have to report are required by ACCJC, and she already mentioned those are our successful completion rates, our certificates that we award, degrees. There's for the CT programs, the licensure exam pass rates and the job placement rates and the transfer. How many students transfer?
I didn't see the transfer.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah, the transfer wasn't at
And I
the
was
top.
asking, I was
Oh,
gonna
holy
ask
smokes.
about that.
If I didn't have it on there, that's my bad. I'm
Okay.
talking, I was literally in another meeting trying to. finish.
Okay, 'cause, yeah, we're usually good at that
Transfer is
area.
it.
And then, sorry.
Sorry, Kathy, thank you
So
for that.
they're all on here, and the ones, it's kind of hard to see, the ones that are bolded are the ACCJC required ones, and the additional ones are our own internal goals.
Make them bigger.
Can you read them?
Now look at the percent. Yeah.
I think it's also. Josh's screen, if you could close participant, might allow some part of it.
Oh, that's on his side.
It's actually on your computer.
How many did you guys devise? Can you read them out so we can just follow along?
So anyway, yeah, so we internally are looking at our high school capture rate, percentage of students who come to us from our local high schools.
You will have this, you're gonna have this. It is a draft at this point, I just told you.
We also are tracking students who complete their transfer level English class or math class within 1 year of coming here. Also, we're looking at students who complete more CTE units in their first year, who complete a comprehensive education plan with our counseling division in their first year. We also look at persistence from fall to the second fall a year later. So these bolded ones are the ACCJC ones. Yeah, so that's it. How many is that? 11? So you can see on this spreadsheet, and this is what gets posted to our website. There's our minimum threshold. This green or yellow
shows whether in the current year we were above or below our floor threshold that we set for ourselves. The next column shows the 5-year range that in that particular metric. And then over from that, we're looking at what is our stretch goal for that metric. And then each of these underlying spreadsheets is where I do the calculations. And so like Keller said, when IEC met years ago to discuss this and figure out what should our goals be, how do we want to determine them? I think in consultation with other groups on campus and also kind of looking around, well, what are other colleges doing? Because this was new at the time, everybody was suddenly required to do this. And it seemed like there was a consensus that folks were doing a rolling 5-year average. So we would look at the particular metric, say, let's look at the last 5 years and then take the average of that and make that our floor. Like we don't want to go below that. Aspirational goal, I'm not sure exactly how we were setting that.
It's 1 standard deviation below.
Then, right, so 3 years ago, I remember working with Z Reese, our director at the time, to work on hopefully improving a little bit that calculation, because we felt like taking an average was something that's kind of gonna vary up and down a little bit. At some point or other, you're gonna dip below that average without having really had anything happen to cause it. And we didn't want to just be dipping below our floor as just an artifact of the way averages are calculated. So then he took that to different groups and said, hey, here's what we propose. So we decided to take that 5-year average, calculate the standard deviation and say, okay, our floor is now 1 standard deviation below that average, that we don't want to go below that. And then our stretch goal is half a standard deviation above the that most recent year, I think, or the highest year. And I guess, so this is a completely defensible way to, as a starting point, to say, this is how we're gonna look at our floor goals and our stretch goals. But my sense is that that's pretty low context. And what I'm looking for is input from across the campus for people to say, well, you know, actually, for X metric, for transfer, we have the transfer center has this new initiative and counselors are doing this new thing and in my program, we're doing this that we think will really impact transfer. That's more high context. And so we come to collectively and say, therefore, we think that our floor goal is probably too low. And we really want to see whether the initiatives that we're doing and the things that we're saying we're doing to improve our outcomes, we want to say, this is what we're putting on the line. And so that's the kind of input that I'm suggesting that we ought to be doing. That's a little more contextual and a little more collaborative. It's not just simply a formula. Yeah.
I think it'd be really good to have, I hate to call it, I mean, we can call it the Institutional Effectiveness Committee, but as soon as you have a committee, people don't want to be on a committee. So maybe what we could start with in the fall is like a work group where you get interested people from any area, administration, faculty, you know, to really talk about and brainstorm, first of all, about the data and how you're generating that. And so that each department understands, because I know poor Melanie and they spent hours with me because our department's all screwed up.
Well, we're working on this.
But it would be interesting to have us all meet and talk about it. And then we look at what we think we want to have as our outcomes. And then what can we do about it?
Yeah.
Because some departments may say, well, I'm doing this or I'm doing that, but what can we collectively do as a campus and as maybe a few initiatives for a year? What are we going to do this year? So that everybody can get on board to really try to work towards a certain goal instead of having it just be, oh, we see it, oh yeah, it's great, and then we forget about it.
You and I are saying the exact same thing, except I hear you say nobody wants to be on a committee. So
Yeah, I think
call it something else.
Yeah,
But otherwise, we're saying the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's long, maybe a 2-hour framework for like 3 times that we all get together and then, you know, you don't do it for the rest of the year, maybe.
Thank you. That's great.
If I may, in order, Elizabeth, Danielle, that.
Well, I think, just to make sure, because even though I'm a math person, I actually don't know anything about stats. So you said the floor is, how can I go to the math column here if you don't mind? So the 5-year average in this math column here, that would be 37.
Yes.
5-year average 37. And then the standard deviation would be 4.
Mm-hmm.
So then the floor should be 33 then?
Yes. So may I ask you a question? Yeah, sure. I have the answer.
So should this be 33 then?
That's a really good question. This was not this, I don't think that was this year, goal. That's a good question, and we keep in mind, please, that that was a graph before we were finished.
Okay.
So I'd have to go back and look at, that's a static thing, I'd have to go back and look at the data and how that ended up, but sure.
Okay.
Based on your logic, looking at that data,
Okay.
you're right, that goal should be 33.
Okay.
What were you looking at?
This
Right
this
there
stuff
in the
that she
middle.
shared at the board and she shared at CPC, that slide where it said 37 and 30 for the math. That's all.
33 still puts us not quite there,
Yeah.
but duly noted, and thank you.
Cool.
I don't have a good answer for you other than I'd have to go look.
Cool. And then, oh, I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You finish.
Yeah, yeah, and I also think, especially with the math, and I mean, English obviously is not in the red.
We can talk about that. That's
Yeah.
a little bit arbitrary, but okay.
Right, I mean, there's also like some contextual stuff, like, you know, 8705, 8705.
This is exactly what I'm talking about, folks.
Yep, you know, when people like the board are like, those math faculty, man, what are they doing over there, you know? Sometimes it's not like. There's other stuff going on, you know?
If I may, I'd really actually like to address this in a very interpersonal way. To say, if I am understanding the subtext here, it's that, gee, that hurts when we look like that in front of the board. Is that?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yes, and I totally understand that. And there has been conversation both before and since that one of the things we need to do is educate the board.
Yes. Yeah.
And we have family
in
on the campus.
Yeah, and we have new board members too.
And it's not as if we're not aware of this. And I still have an obligation to report in order to keep our campus in compliance with our accreditation standards. And so both things are true. And we had a long conversation at EC Plus this week about how do we prepare before the next required report so that we have much more input from around the campus. This is, again, this is, if you haven't heard this as a theme, we're looking for much more input from around the campus before reports like that are happening. So I know that is small comfort.
But no, when they see, they're gonna see this trend of math across the board, so they understand that context better, right? But our board doesn't.
Right.
That's the point.
Yeah.
But we're not.
I think you were.
Danielle.
We're all impacted by Melanie. This is.
I guess this sort of speaks to this same issue. So I watched your presentation for the board. And I was really disturbed at how angry the board was in response, especially to the disaggregated data that showed African-American students and Latino students not doing that well. And this is, we've been talking about this in the history department. So our goal is for every single student to pass our class. Like, this is meaningless to me. Like, no one's goal is to have 30% of the students pass their class. Like, that is not what any of us in the classroom want to do. And like the history department, we really restructured how we taught based on all the educational research. So we have lots of small, low stakes assignments that are worked on building skills. We scaffold everything out if it's a paper, you know, redesigned our syllabi, we make sure our curriculum reflects our students. All of that we are doing. And what our grades look like are
A's and B's and F's.
Right.
There's no belting. And what happens is students disappear. They don't do the work. And so what we need from IR is, why are the students disappearing? Because it's not an instructional problem, right? It's a lot of my students are working full-time, trying to go to school full-time, have a kid. Like, they don't have time to do the work. Or, and a lot of researchers are looking at this right now at the R1 level, is there's a real literacy.
Yeah.
The students, right, and they cannot read.
And we don't have those courses.
And we don't have those courses anymore.
Right.
And so, like, that's the, if we're really gonna talk about student success, that is what we need to talk about.
Yeah.
And not just showing metrics that make us look like we suck to the board.
Right.
Because we're all working really hard. And it's really not helpful to have a trustee say, I don't give a shit if some faculty member is being told they're getting a good job, doing a good job, or that some staff member is doing a good job. Like, you all suck and this is horrible. And so if we are gonna have this kind of presentation to the board, then faculty need to be allowed to offer the context, because otherwise it harms faculty. We're the only ones who've been here in the last 15 years with all of this churn. And it misrepresents what we're doing to the board and the public. And it's not going to actually address the student success problem. You know, and a lot of this is political. We need more money. We need not to have AB 705 in place anymore. But just presenting us as failing is not helpful.
Thank you, Alina. I'd like to respond to that, because I want to tell you that I'm feeling a little bit like you're saying, we failed you in this presentation, and I'm going to defend that and say, yes, that is what you need from IR. You need more data, you need more information, you need more context. And by the way, the kinds of things that you're talking about are the kinds of things I said in my job interview that I want to be doing. Additionally, I'm here because that's exactly what I'm looking for. And you also need from IR that we meet our accreditation requirements. And I am required and obliged to provide that presentation annually. And it's not as if these data are new. They've been available. They've been available disaggregated for a long time. So I hope that you are not saying, though it certainly sounds like you are saying, that we did something bad to faculty by meeting our obligation to give out.
It was not, that's not what I'm saying. The board's reaction. And that's why I'm saying context matters.
Yes.
And also, you've only been here a year.
Yes.
You don't know what we have experienced in the last 10 to 15 years. And I think, and my point is, again, not looking at the board presentation, but like, we can't do anything about student success based on this data, because it's not telling us enough.
If I may, so these were some of the things that for the rich, we wanted Tara and I to be able to bring this up at the EC Plus. That was actually one very productive meeting where we said, really, we need to educate the board. And often it's insane. Let's ask questions to be able to see what they do and do not know, because I think that's a good starting point for being able to flesh out what that context is. This is not the end of the conversation. In fact, it's only the beginning. It's something that we brought up at EC Plus. It's something that I brought up in my meeting with Erica Andrew Jonas, just to say, how did that go? Because I think that was one of the few times that I actually witnessed at EC Plus, people around the table wanted to actually focus on the concerns that you have, to say there's a context to this. So this is not the end of the conversation.
And if I may, it is also why I am focusing on not the data and what we're reporting, but on the process. I am asking for this collaborative input. And that's the only way we're gonna get where you're asking to go.
Want to make sure we have Beth and we have.
Okay, I just had 3 quick things to say. So can we get community college-wide statistics looking, so we can look at them together when we look at this? The second thing was, I did a project, Mel was doing a different one, but I was actually with Nicole.
Yeah.
And we had a hard time, like, because each department was doing some willy-nilly different stuff, so we need to uniform the process, so we're all doing the same thing. Because I tried to get stuff from EOPS, I tried to get stuff from student services, then you look at the promise rally, and if you look at, you know, high school capture, or if you look at the academic notice change, and you look at the persistence levels, like, all that stuff is like, becomes mercurial, and then this doesn't become like anything of that makes sense to me. So I'm just wondering, like, how can we incorporate these initiatives into that?
So I guess I can give you what I think has the potential to get us many years away to what you're describing. First of all, I want to reiterate, this is a compliance requirement. If we don't report these data in this way by Friday, we've done a disservice to the college. So there is a baseline where we're required to do this. Whether it is the best way for us to do it or not. The hope on the horizon is, and I can't believe I'm gonna say this because usually I'm quite skeptical about how our system makes requirements on us. And 8705 and 8705 being one of them. We have a new initiative required by the state called the Vision Aligned Reporting. And the goal is to say EOPS, and DSPS, and all the student services programs and our dual enrollment program and several other programs around the campus. The state is finally standardizing the reporting structure for those things. So the experience that you had where it's like, well, we're not looking at that, or we don't track this, or don't, we will begin to have comparable data. We have a problem on this campus where there's a lot more data that we need that we simply don't have access to. So even if we wanted to reduce it, we can't because it's not available to us. It's another reason that I think we all need to be around the table talking about this. So yes, there are statewide data available and we do report statewide averages in other contexts. I don't know, Melanie, whether you want to add this to this annual.
It's, it is on here, and my apologies, these red items are the ones I haven't updated yet.
Yeah.
We don't have a statewide comparison for high school capture rate. Some of these are from the previous year.
Yeah, we don't have all,
I don't think we have.
statewide averages on available, I don't have them, but it is on
I have to look, because the chancellor's office also changed the way they do their.
Yes, they do.
So I can have to dig around on whether I can still get,
Yeah.
or where and how to get them in their new system.
I know we're over time, but I think this is worth the 30 seconds. What Danielle was sharing is board knowledge and how the public sees the college. So that meeting is unfortunate because it's sort of like misinformation about vaccines or something. Once something's out there like that, it is hard to pull it back and explain it more. I would be very concerned that we wait until the next report. I think it would be really important to have an opportunity to share with the board and the public the statewide data. And I think it's really important for our public relations in this community. So I am concerned what I am hearing. It's not any failure in the initial report. It is the fact that how it then was talked about is not informed. And we are an educational institution and we have a reputation that we care deeply about. So I am requesting that the EC work with us to allow us to have a short agenda item to share this with that context.
With the board, is that right?
Yeah, at the board.
Okay.
I mean, the board has been talking about meeting with the academic senators as well as with the FA. So it would maybe Josh and I can point out in our reports next week that it's time to have these meetings or this meeting if we want to find that.
A large part of that initial conversation with EC Plus was also about saying, how do we go about this? Because if we situated this in the hands of the faculty, there is no shortage of thing that we could discuss, classroom to classroom, counselor appointment to counselor appointment, but also in the confines of a board meeting. How do we control that conversation? Because this could go on forever. It's also where I said, this doesn't have to be the only presentation that we give to the board too. But that I would like that conversation to take place, not only at EC Plus, but also in talking with Erica as well to say, can we also discuss this at CPC to have an organized discussion? Because I wanted to make sure that we got a chance to say our side of it too. And also to be able to say, it's on for everybody on the student facing side on the entire campus. This is our concern because like Kim said, it's out there right now. But also this is where I talked to Justina as well, where she said, look, I'm actually excited because finally I get a chance to be able to say, this is what I do with professional development and how student success is at the center. So
I think one other thing I would like to suggest is that if there's one very significant shift in culture that needs to happen so that presentations like this, these are the metrics we have to report, and they look like they're all about instruction, and they're not. They are about the institution's service to the student holistically. It just happens to be academic outcomes are the point of the realm. And so the conversation also has to shift, and this again is why I'm saying I would like a group of people, a work group, whatever it is, that is in a committee apparently, that helps us to come together and say, what you're doing over here in student services is in concert with what we're doing here. How do we magnify that in collaboration? And how do we change the narrative so you all don't feel when there's an academic outcome that is being reported because it has to be, and it has to be shared with the public, and it has to be shared with the board, or we are out of compliance with the litigation, that it isn't seen as what the hell is the math faculty doing?
You
What the
just
hell
need the
is-
statewide number next to it. That's all we're suggesting.
Yeah.
That's because we're always above.
That's all.
I think that's too simplistic, but I
did make it
better than nothing.
It's one thing.
Yeah.
It's one thing.
Thank you for that.
That's very
All
good.
right. We got some.
They could have been presented right there.
So the other thing that we haven't discussed in relationship to your report is that our students' mental health is at risk right now. Our faculty's are too. And we just had
Sounds
the
secret administration.
we just had the survey. Has the survey closed for the students to weigh in? When we get that data, to include that in the report to show the crises everyone is under. Maybe when that is presented to the board, they can look at, we're doing everything we can as an institution. We're all doing our best, but there's other factors involved. And I do think that the board needs to maybe be a little more open-minded and to look at not just the numbers, but also the students' responses to the mental health survey that went out.
Yes, I think that's a really good idea.
Who's gonna share that? Alana?
I noticed one of these is that students
I
have
know.
comprehensive ed. Where does that data being pulled from?
I would have to go back to my query. I know I worked with Zane in IT and Jordan also in our office to identify where the information is coming from. Because there's a difference between class planning, right? Class planning and comprehensive. I think it's zeroed in on the correct place. So I built a dashboard.
I would say that's a metric that is not required by accreditation, and if it's still a useful metric. One of the things that I feel like we need to be doing when we have, I'm begging you for this conversation, is, are we measuring the right things in the right way? Yes, we gotta do our compliance reporting, but are there other things that we should be looking at? And how, if we don't have the data yet, how do we get the data? Like, you and I have been talking about starfish for a long time. We need starfish so that we can get a whole lot.
Did we just find
more
out we can't have that?
Qualitative
It's not working yet.
context, right?
Hasn't been.
If that's, that used to be a metric that we were required for in the scorecard, was it some years ago, right?
Yeah, the
It's-
ARCC.
It's not a requirement anymore, it's not useful anymore, we get rid of it. If we're missing something that we have access to data, let's start measuring it.
Right, and
Including
there've been
such
questions about.
survey data that we.
So. I can only.
So maybe the final report that you give to us
That's not
about
I just don't know.
compliance is, what are your other stats
can't-
and the other information that we want to complement, which explains some of the stats.
And I would say more reporting.
Right,
Right.
Everyone, we are at time. Before I pose a motion to adjourn, I wanted to draw attention to the agenda item that Elizabeth Chisholm was going to present. It was on our Senate bylaws, that is intended to be revisited on April 23. You have a doc to the updated bylaws. It also lists our membership as well. Please offer your comments. You have editing rights on that document. It was always intended that we would come back on April 23 to be able to discuss those changes as well. Everyone, please, it's time to adjourn. Can I have a motion on the table to adjourn?
So moved.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Courtney.
Yeah. Guys,
Yeah, I have.
Anyway, guys, can I make an announcement? I know we are nearly over a minute, but, I thought Josh was mentioning it, and Josh probably thought I was mentioning. We have a plenary scheduled